you've spent the money. Now, please make the most of it. So, my goal today is just to give you guys some real tips and tricks to ensure maximum value from your training dollars. And I've pulled in two amazing experts to join me today. We have Sharon Beebe. Sharon's with Worley. She is a global demand manager, which we're going to talk about that in just a minute, ma'am. And Donna Knapp, ITSM Academy's curriculum development manager. We are playing some games today, so please get your phones ready because the phone's the easiest way to do it. You can also do it through your browser. But Donna's going to lead us through those games. So, as it said on social, I am irked, bothered, miffed, and upset, and that really is what got us all here today. Last month's webinar was amazing, and Gabrielle was talking about some training complications, and I thought, you know what? Over all the years, I've said, why don't people do this better? And well, maybe I could give you some of the advice and tell you guys what this is. So what we're going to talk about today is, first, why do companies train their employees? What we have here is a failure to communicate. Our surprise guest, Sharon, and she is, she is going to talk about the most successful training program that ITSM Academy's ever had the pleasure to be involved in. And as you can imagine, over 20 years, we've been involved in a lot of programs. Then I've got six tips for improving your return on investment, or what the training industry is now really starting to call your return on experience. And for those of you that know me, you know I'm very involved in the employee experience XLA movement. So I love that. It feels like a great merge together. And then we've carved out a lot of time for conversations and Q&A for any one of the three of us, whoever you want to ask. So, I learned this a long time ago from Rob Stroud at an ITSMF event. He started with Rob at home. And I love doing this because it's, it's not all just about work. This is my husband and I on our absolute dream vacation in Alaska. Some of the pups in our lives. When I am not sitting at my desk, I try my very best to be sitting right there, swimming around lifeguard stand 14. And then yes, I am a person who has fed a carrot to a moose with my mouth. And there's a story, but we don't have time for it today. I feel like that's important to know about me. So
I just spend a second and honor Rob Stroud. I hadn't heard his name in a while. So we miss you, Rob.
Yes, we miss you, Rob. So Donna, if you would, take it away.
Okay, so we're going to play, it's actually kind of just a couple of questions and some polls. And the best way to do this is to get your phone out, point your phone at the QR code, and come on in to the game. And then what you're going to do is you're going to have the questions up on your laptop, and you're going to use your phone in order to respond. So your phone turns into your clicker or your response pad, so to speak. You can do it all on your phone. It's just a little trickier. So if you have two devices, it makes life easier. So I'm going to take the screen and I'm going to take us into it. And here we go. So, all right, we've got people coming in. Good deal. If for some reason you can't get in with a QR code, which is really the easiest way to get in, you can use the URL that you now see on your screen, bravozone.us, and you can come in that way. If you come in through the Bravo Zone link, it will ask you for an ID. The ID is 0181, and then it'll prompt you for your name. So again, the QR code's really kind of the easiest way to come in, but you can come in through the URL if you need to. So we'll give it just a, short, another 10, 20 seconds to come in. All right, we're seeing people come in. Come on in, come on in. And you'll be able to join in if for whatever reason there's a lag and you're kind of not getting in for some reason, you'll be able to hop in at any time. So I'll just say, I'll give it 30 more seconds, and I'll fill that 30 seconds by saying, I really personally had the privilege of working with Sharon on the program that she's going to talk about. And as an educator, it was kind of amazing to see this type of program in place and to have the kind of insight that I felt that I needed to really be an effective trainer, right? I was given the information that I needed to ensure that when I was teaching, I was really supporting what were the organization's goals and kind of reinforcing the messages that they wanted to deliver in the program. And so it was a phenomenally rewarding experience for me as an educator. All right, so here we go. We're going to go ahead and start. Again, if you're not in yet, come on in. You can still come in. So our first question. To this point of alignment with the program, what percentage of companies do you think say that their learning strategies are aligned with business goals? So go ahead and use your phone or your tablet, wherever you've got your keypad, to go ahead and put in your responses. I'm not seeing any responses come in. Are you all seeing it? Sharon, are you seeing it on your keypad?
I am.
And did you answer?
I did.
Okay.
It shows submitted.
Okay.
I'm seeing 83%, Donna.
Okay. Huh. All right. All right. There we go. Okay. There we go. As usual, my Zoom stuff was in the way. All right. So, you know, what's kind of sad about it, Lisa, right, is that nobody picked 70%. Right?
Oh, and people pick
Which
10%.
is telling, isn't it? Right?
Mm-hmm.
So 33% picked the correct answer, which is 40%. So this is according to a McKinsey and Company Brandon Hoff study. And, you know, kind of what it says is the inverse, that 60% of organizations really aren't aligning their learning programs with their organization's strategic goals, you know, which, and Lisa's going to talk about why that's a bit of a problem. All right, so next
Just
question.
a bit of a problem.
Yeah. What percentage of people who acquired a new skill in the past 12 months have actually applied that new skill to their job, right, to the role that they play in the organization? And I have to say, as an educator, this breaks my heart when people say, I'm here because my boss told me I had to come. You know, I don't have any intention of actually trying to learn anything or apply what I learned. It just makes me sad.
And
Or it makes me sad when people say I learned great stuff, but I went back and, you know, unfortunately, perhaps my boss was a barrier to my actually being able to apply what I learned.
And those are two of the things that I'm going to touch on today, Donna.
So what percentage? We've got everybody's response. So all over the board on this one, we've got, you know, a somewhat optimistic crowd here. And the answer is 58%. So yay, right? More people than the majority of our attendees thought, but still not good enough, right? We still want that to be better. And that's according to the 2023 upskilling IT report that is put out by the DevOps Institute. That report was just recently released within the last few weeks or so. But the good news is, according to that survey as well, 60% of people who responded learned a new skill in the past 12 months. So that's great. We're out there learning. Now we have to apply what we learn. So this is a poll question. You can choose as many as apply to you. There is no right answer here. What are your top barriers to upskilling?
And Donna, if memory serves, this kind of question works a little bit different. I think this one actually has a submit button. And it looks like people are submitting, but
yep.
because y'all, I don't know how many of you got to join us for game night, but we did a game night a week or two ago. And, you know, our joke here at the Academy is hashtag, go ahead and say it, Donna.
What?
Donna, look at my hand. Go ahead and say it.
Oh, Deming.
All right. So Donna says Deming and it's drink, but it's always water or coffee. So we did an evening event and Donna said Deming a lot.
So people could enjoy themselves after their beverage. All right, we'll give it one more second. I think we have just about everybody. There we go. We have everybody. All right, so let's see what we've got. Lack of. Yeah.
Wow, knowing what skills are needed. That one I address a little bit today, but that's interesting. Maybe that's something that we probe on deeper at another webinar.
And that lack of leadership support, 33%. If you saw me do my, I do an annual kind of state of every January, lack of leadership support comes up on every survey, everywhere, almost always at the top. So at least it's not at the top for this one. And so well done. All right, now this one, choose one option, whether inside or outside of work. What type of training event allowed you to come back to your desk and really make tangible incremental improvements, right? So you went, our motto is educate and inspire. You went to a training event, you were really inspired. What was the nature of that particular training event?
And boy, I wish we would have had, because obviously you can only have 5 answers. I wish we could have simulation on there, because if simulation was on there and I were playing, that would be my.
Well, sim is in C, Lisa. It's part of C.
Oh,
So
sorry. If I knew
I
how to
kind of
read.
did C as like interactive, kind of, unstructured type event. Although some conferences are pretty structured, but that's where sim lives. All right, let's see what we see.
Interesting.
Right. 50-50. All right. And last but not least, and this is kind of, there is no right answer here. What did you learn that significantly shifted, I always say shifted your brain cells, that shifted your mindset or shifted your behavior? Like you learned something that was so powerful that it shifted the way you thought or behaved from that point forward.
And I'll give you guys mine is years and years ago, I attended an ITSMF conference and a practitioner, Angelique King, was talking about their service management program and the things they had done to improve. And she said, so what we came up with was discuss, decide, champion. And what that meant was nobody's allowed to leave the room. Everyone has a voice, but no one gets to leave the room and say, can you believe they just decided that? We all sit together. And at that point, it was
I just want to say, Lisa, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Everybody make sure you hit submit on this one. I'm pretty sure you have to hit submit.
You do.
We're not seeing any responses come in. So go ahead and hit submit if you haven't already. There we go. Okay. Ooh, I love Sharon. Awesome. I'm sorry, Lisa, I interrupted you.
Oh, no, that's okay. I was just trying to give a good example of those words, discuss, decide, champion, really helped us shift our culture here at the Academy.
All right. Anybody else? Make sure you hit submit once you've entered your option. I'll share my, yay, Deidre, yes. I love this. This is making me happy. I'll share mine. So, in my early years, I was very much a perfectionist to the extent that I drove myself and everybody else around me crazy. And when I went to be a Scrum Master, I learned the concept of minimum viable product. And it really kind of helped me adopt this philosophy that what I try to do, I try to make perfect for now, knowing that, I can always incrementally improve it. So now I only a little bit drive everybody crazy. Like I've got perfectionist tendencies, but I've channeled them a little bit on any given day. All right, anybody else? Go ahead and hit submit. Love it. These are awesome. These are like good, great, big theme concepts that is awesome to see.
Boy, process integration is the secret sauce.
Right
Sharon,
on.
right on, lady.
Yeah.
All right. Lisa, back to you. That was fun. Thanks, everybody.
That was fun. Thanks for playing, guys. Let me get my make sure I get to the right screen share. And can you guys see us? Yep, we're
Yes.
back.
Yep, you're back.
Perfect. Thank you so much for being my game master, Donna.
You're welcome.
You really, yeah. So as we learned from that survey, from the McKinsey survey, that only 40% of companies say their learning strategy is aligned with their business goals. And that, I think, is a big crux of the problem. And so as I said, as I see it, what we have here is a failure to communicate. And in our world, here's what happens. There is some senior leader who has a meeting with the CIO or even more senior leader, and they build a strategy, and someone says, you know what, we need training to get this done. And so that comes down the pike, and here are the goals. What kind of training do we need? And often that is answered by ITSM experts in our world, right? ITSM experts, but not folks that are professional training program planning experts. So it's kind of problem number one. Then a decision is made. We're going to train 200 people in DevOps Foundation or whatever, insert class here. But the strategic goals now are no longer included in the request. Now we know we're going to train 200 people in Foundation, but we don't actually know or have not been told why. And there could be, depending on the size of the organization, there could be multiple more steps in here, but for simplicity, then the training organization is contact. And so we ask, and if someone, particularly a company that we've not worked with in the past, calls us up and says, we want to train 200 people in DevOps Foundation, our team doesn't say, okay, our team says why, right? Because you're giving everyone a driver's license. Let's talk about using that same budget in a much, much more effective way, right? So we ask, how do you define success, or why are you doing this even? And the answer that we get from the person who is the person that sort of, a lot of times I feel like it's probably a short straw. You have to coordinate the training, right? But the answer they give us is not the same answer that if we would have had access to that individual, they would have provided. So really that's what I'm here to do today. I'm going to share some tips and tricks on the best way to combat that. So as I said, we have a surprise guest, Sharon. And Sharon, I know that you are a global demand manager. Mm-hmm. And so what I want to know, just what does that mean? What do you do now?
So my role today is to really have conversations with our stakeholders about the art of the possible. So in using the technology platform that we have, along with aligning that to process, we talk about how we can expand the platform, how we can improve our processes, how we can standardize. Those are all of the conversations that I have with the stakeholders to progress and meet the kind of strategic priorities that we have and ensure that we're hitting the desired outcomes that we have on our roadmap.
That's a great job for you, lady.
It's fun.
Yeah. So Sharon at home, talk us through this.
Yeah, so I'm, Michigan board and Texas based now. I try to sneak away to sail every opportunity I can get. Like Lisa, I like to be on the water a whole lot. So a little bit of a challenge to find that in Texas sometimes. I'm used to Great Lakes. We have puddles down here mostly until we get to the ocean. But the wonderful part is I now have, horses down the street. I have 2 donkeys that live off of my backyard in the ranch behind me, which is really kind of cool. And I am a rescue dog aficionado. I've got 4 rescue dogs in my house, which is kind of insane. And all of the hooligans are on this page. So that's me at home in terms of work. I've been in IT for 30 years. I started in ops and app development, and basically haven't looked back since then, focusing a lot on service management since 2003.
And so can you tell us about the program that you led for the financial services industry?
Sure. So as Lisa says, we kind of put this into the Wayback Machine and talked a little bit about what we did. So it was actually a big program. It was a $30 million program that was focused on process. Specifically then it was ITIL V2, all of the enabling technologies that needed to be in place to do that. So not just a ticketing system, but event monitoring. And we did a custom CMDB because back in the day, a lot of tools just didn't have one. Really the important part for us was the people aspect. So when we took the scope around service support and service delivery and had 10 process owners, 10 process engineers accompanying them, process improvement teams are in place. You can imagine the number of individuals that we had from the people perspective involved. There were 150 people just in the core teams around pits and things like that, not to include all of the people that were engaged in all of the technology projects that we were running to enable the processes that we were designing. And of course, you know, ITSM Academy and Donna especially were critically important to launching the program that we had in place. So, you know, being that I am passionate about organizational change management, we took a six-pronged approach and had work streams that include the extended team member involvement, as I mentioned, with process owners and process improvement teams. We did a lot of training. We felt that it was critically important that the folks at the point of the spear, which is process before tool, was to get them foundation trained. So we started right off the bat with all of our process owners and process engineers who could actually speak to the ability to adapt and adopt with a framework that was in place. We actually took some time and looked at a few frameworks, and ITIL at the time was the one that meant a lot to us. We then proceeded to train our pit teams and then expanded it out to a number of people that were involved in other projects. And I was amazed at the uptake of the method. People that came to us and said, gee, I really want to take that ITIL Foundation course. What do I need to do to get involved? We also ran our 20 process owners and process engineers through practitioner level training at the time to take a deeper dive. We focused a lot on IPRC back in the day. And then we did process and tool training across all of IT for this organization. And again, ITSM Academy was incredibly helpful to us to meld the processes that we had final designs on and the enabling technologies that we were using so that people understood the linkages between the two and that one doesn't go without the other. So getting that training in place, doing a lot of classroom work really helped us kind of, expand that concept across all of IT. One of the things that I found really interesting when we talk about organizational alignment is we started in IT ops. Because everybody thought back in the day that this was more of an ops kind of thing. You know, the application side of the house was really focused on CMMI and had gone through multiple certification. We knocked on their door and said, you know, you do a lot of release and change and we should be talking. And once they understood where we were going, they said, absolutely, let's get involved. And we ended up training a majority of their leaders on the application side of the house as well. So we had that organization alignment between both sides of the house that I think was really, really critical. We had visible sponsorship. We had the CIO stand up and kick off the program. We had all of the leaders take active roles in process improvement teams. We had a leader for service support. We had a leader for service delivery. They walked the talk and talked the walk. And that, I think, was so important that they were so highly engaged in the kind of work that we were doing. You know, our value realization on what we did with this program, we had great uptake. We improved controls. We had improvements in availability and reliability. We standardized policy, process, and procedure across the board for all of IT. We improved CSAT. We improved customer experience for our end users. There was a common language for all of IT. We were all speaking and singing from the same hymnal and had clear roles and responsibilities. I can't tell you how much that decreased the friction in the organization. And last but not least, branding and communication brought the fun in. And I think that was a big driver in how successful we were. We started with a seek the peak tagline. It was really about the fact that we knew that we had a long journey and it was going to be sometimes a tough mountain to climb. So we started.
Good analogy. Sorry.
Yeah, really, right? Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of work. There was no process in some cases. It was, it had just kind of grown organically. There was a lot of tribal knowledge floating around, that kind of thing. So we chose this tagline to say, let's seek the peak. Let's get up there. That's the summit. That's where we want to head. So we did a lot of iconography related to mountain climbing and compasses to make sure that you were headed in the right direction. We did premium tie-ins. Everybody in IT got handed a branded carabiner. The people that were on the pit teams received Seek the Peak, what we called base camp flags. Everybody got a flag that was involved as a process owner, a process engineer, or they were a pit team member, and they all put them in their cubes. And then what we did is every time we hit a milestone in the program, we handed out campaign flags or campaign ribbons. So just like a military organization hangs, multiple ribbons of different colors based on the campaigns that they've done, we had different color ribbons that attached to the top of the flag to show how many base camps they'd been involved with. We had the leaders hand out those ribbons. People stopped at my cube all the time saying, "Where's my ribbon and how do I get one? How do I get one of those flags?" So it started allowing us to kind of have constructive dialogue around service management and what we were doing in the company. So the fun brought in the deeper conversations about why we were doing it and what strategic objectives we were trying to meet. We did fun stuff. We handed out walking sticks to a number of the folks that were involved in the core team. As we got higher and higher and higher, as a joke, we handed out disposable oxygen masks because we knew the air was getting kind of thin, right? So everybody had their oxygen masks on for a day, which was kind of funny. Portable compasses, we got Sherpa hats at one point. So again, that tie-in was really not only fun, but that dialogue allowed us really to have an environment where stakeholders could come to the same conclusions about why we were doing what we were doing and what kind of value that we were going to bring. So, I can't, emphasize enough. People sometimes think it's fluff, but the reality is it allowed us to open those dialogues, to get people engaged, to want to be part of the fun and part of the team. And when they saw where we actually got traction, there was an incredible amount of adoption. I can't say enough for the teams that I worked with this client. It was just an absolute blast.
Yeah. I remember walking the halls, just like back in the day when you used to go visit clients, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember, and Donna had told me, because Donna was an instructor on several of these classes, and Donna had told me, "You aren't going to believe what those guys are doing." When I walked, and there was kind of a cube farm, because it's a very big organization, right?
Yeah.
I walked through, and you could just tell people weren't like, "Oh, that's when I had to hang my flag." People were like trying to make their flag be taller than other people's. They were trying to like put stuff underneath to make it was really, and the fun and excitement around improving was, the energy was, it was amazing. And
it was great.
So
can I tell one quick story?
Absolutely.
Sure.
So, as a trainer, one of the most powerful things, Sharon mentioned that leadership sponsorship. One of the most powerful things for me was, for pretty much every training class, some senior leader would come in and kick off the class and thank everybody who was there and kind of speak to the why of what this program was about. And one of the leaders, I'll never forget, and it was a physical act. She used to put her hands on her shoulder and she'd say, "I have to say, my shoulders feel so much better today. There's weight being lifted on off my shoulders, because we now have more people coming into our program and who are going to be able to help and participate in this program." And it was just a powerful message. She enlisted everybody's support. She told them, "You're here to learn so that you can help." It was incredibly powerful. Mm-hmm. And then they would tell people your job today and for the next couple of days is just to learn. Forget about, work, forget about what we're doing, learn, right? Learn these concepts, learn these principles. But we'll come back at the end and answer questions. And then at the end of class, they would come back and they would talk about the program and what the roadmap was for the program and answer anybody's specific questions about, what's in it for me, or how does this relate to my part of the organization. So it was a really powerful way to not only like engage people and kind of inspire them to participate in the training, but then reinforce coming out of it now what role they could play going forward, how it was expected that they would apply what they learned going forward. So really, really amazing experience as an educator.
Thank you for sharing that, Donna, because I'll tell you, of course, the bringing a stakeholder in is one of the tips that we're going to share. Let me get us over there, right? So, because I've seen even at organizations, smaller organizations, listen, not everyone's got a $30 million budget. A lot of times people have the budget for the training and, but a lot of the stuff that Sharon and her team did were not expensive items. They were ribbons, right?
Right.
So, we have seen smaller organizations take the theme of what happened with Sharon and her program and in a much smaller, simpler way, but still with a lot of fun, have wrapped themes around or campaigns around their training program, because often training programs are part of a bigger project. And then there's the training that we have, we have this team of in our business process office, we've got 15 folks that are certified process design engineers. And as we bring in new people, we want for them to also get that training. And that from a not from a classroom delivery perspective, but from a expectation perspective, that's a little bit different. Kind of what I'm talking about here today more is the tied to a program or to a strategic initiative, right? And we've seen organizations where class one, say we do 3 classes. Class one, senior leadership comes in, they've got a little PowerPoint with 1, 2, 3 slides about the roadmap. They thank everyone for coming, explain how important it is that everyone is here. And when we go around the room and say, who are you, where are you from, and what are you doing here? We have a senior leader in that room. And Donna, you correct me if you think I'm wrong. I have never seen a person say, I'm here because my boss told me to be here, when the boss is in the room or the boss just left the room. And that changes the mindset for all of the learners. So I'm thinking about one organization in particular. It was actually a county government. So the next class, the boss wasn't able to come in. And I always say to people, and you'll see this in just a second, get the highest person you can get, right? The highest person you can get. So no one was able to come in the room. And I really think it was like, oh, well, now we've trained people. Everyone knows. But no, this is a new class with new learners, right? And in that class, and I remember this specifically, there were 22 learners, and 3 of the learners said, I'm here because my boss told me to be. 3 of the learners didn't pass the exam because that level of engagement just wasn't there. And that's why I called today's, you spent the money, make the most of it. So here are I should really say, our ideas and suggestions. So, from that initial call, when you call into the training company, as I've said before, hey, Lisa, we want to train 200 people in DevOps Foundation. And it's not yes, it's why. Why would you do that? Let's look at your budget. Let's go understand what your strategic goals are. And I know you might be the person who, as I said before, kind of got the short straw and had to coordinate the training. But we're going to be, we collectively as partners are going to be so much more successful if we can get insight into what the strategic goals are. Why are we doing it? So if you're ever in a position where your boss comes to you and says, you know what, we want to train 50 people in, your first question should be, why are we doing that? Right? Why are we doing that? Because there are training organizations, ITSM Academy included, who have training experts, and we know how to build training benefits. So first, how do you define success? And, tell people why. You're asking them to walk away from their job for 3 days or 4 days or however it breaks down. But the reality is the work doesn't go away. So now they've got the work and this. And so you culturally have to figure out a way how to accomplish both of those goals, right? So it's how do we define success? Why are we doing this? And thanking the learners for participating. So, as I said, work with the training organization and let us help you. Maybe 200 people in foundation isn't going to get you where you want to go. So first you have to know where you want to go, and then we can help you get there. We really use an old-fashioned RACI, or as some people call it, irked chart, right? Because who needs to be responsible? Who needs to be informed? Who needs to be accountable? We use that chart. We take the list of classes that we feel like will help accomplish the strategic goals, and we break that out by teams, and then we go back and we present that back as here's what we recommend you do with that budget. So this one is so important, and it's something that comes as part of the service from ITSM Academy. I'm sure it does from all training organizations of quality. Schedule the pre-class con call with the instructor. The instructor wants to do it. They want to understand why this class, why these learners. And, the only exception to that is if maybe it's the same trainer going in, training the same class for group 3. Of course, they understand now what the goals, what the challenges are, and how to teach to those, and how to encourage people, understanding us going in and understanding not only what your strategic vision is, but really what you're trying to accomplish and what barriers are stopping you. Our trainers are IT professional practitioners and consultants. They can help. You're already spending the money. Make the most out of it. Do your pre-class con call, people. Sorry. That offer is often declined, and you've spent the money. So, and we talked about this, but have a visual roadmap, the highest level executive that you can. It makes an incredible difference to have that person stand up in the front of the room. Again, thank you. Here's why. Here's how we're going to protect you while you're in class. And here's how we're going to come back to you post-class and what we want to see from you. And there you have it. Have and communicate. Yes, ma'am. You're on mute. $10 in my Mexico jar.
There you go. So very quickly, one more story to that point. I taught a class in my county, Pinellas County, Florida. The CIO was in the very first foundation class, and what kind of a powerful message is that, first of all? And then he came in and launched every previous class, and he used to walk in and say, he would tell people, I was in the very first class, I passed the exam, and I expect you to pass your exam as well. That's a pretty powerful message, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. God, I'd forgotten that. I loved him. So, and then, depending on the size of your program, what you guys are trying to accomplish, a lot of times clients come to us with a pretty big program and are allowing us perhaps even work with the education plan with them. Get L&D involved. Even if you're doing a single class, 20 people, understand at least what your learning and development team has to offer and what they can do to help. It's, often it's a Slack, it's a chat, it's a quick conversation, but understanding from a learner perspective, do learners have to, is there a program in place where learners will submit their certifications back in? But, again, you spent the money, you've got folks in the organization that can help you. And so utilize resources, particularly free resources, wherever and however you can get to them. And, to that end, one of my favorite things we ever did for so many years, especially when we used to print and ship materials, now we're saving the planet, but I used to say it's the best 25 cents I ever spent. So this is an 8.5 by 11, twofold. So what's on the left is the outside, right? If you could kind of imagine my post-class action plan is your cover. You open it up and you've got 8.5 by 11 sheet that's your personal action plan, you've got short-term and you've got long-term goals and priorities, right? In classes where we've been able to coordinate, we've done a pre-class con call with the instructor, a senior level person who's come in to kick off the class, personal action plan all of a sudden is worth that much more, because the instructor knows during class, like after break, should I say, okay, who's got what on their personal action plan they want to share with us? And understanding what the plan is post-class is who internally is the team going to get back together? Is there going to be some kind of debrief? What are we expected to do with the knowledge? I didn't include this in my tips, but you're paying for vouchers. Set an expectation date of when everyone should take that exam by. That's frustrating. And I hate to see that. It's a real waste of time for some of our clients who do have a lot of people go through different kinds of trainings. They're always having to reach back out. And we don't mind doing it, but they have to reach back out and say, okay, how many people have taken? How many people have taken? And so we always try to remind them, like, really have a senior person say, and I expect for you to take that exam by July 1st. Maybe not, I expect you to pass it because I passed it, but set that expectation, set the expectation of what we're going to do with post-class knowledge. And I'll give you guys a hint too, is the Academy, we typically attend several conferences a year. I keep it on my iPad. I legitimately use this form on my iPad and take my notes in it, because one of the things that is frustrating about conferences, any learning event, then you come back to your desk and you've got a pile or an email list, right? So I just find this to be a very helpful way for me personally to set my own sort of expectations when I get back from conference. When we get back from conference, we always do a debrief. So understanding and knowing when your internal debrief is and what do you expect, what do you want from learners, that's all part of what we do as part of the package. If instead of, I want to train 200 people in foundation, you say, Lisa, we have a goal, we have an objective, or not Lisa, ITSM Academy, we have a goal, we have an objective. What do you suggest? How can we help? Anyway, God, I got real passionate about that, didn't I?
And Lisa, because you are so passionate about it, I actually threw up the personal action plan under chat. If anybody would like to go ahead and grab that.
Perfect.
It's
Thank
there
you.
for you.
And
It is one of our favorite little tools in the classroom.
And you really can't see what it says, and this was, I will admit, one thing that I'm sad we don't really print anymore. And as you know, Donna, when I go into virtual classes, I always say to people, don't print anything except for that one. Go get that one thing off of the learner portal and go ahead and print it. Because not only does it have the personal action plan, but it really, I'm very proud of the wording on there, just in terms of getting into the mindset of a learner. This is why my company is spending a lot of money for me to be here. And here's my part of the contract, if you will.
And I like that we have, what's something you can do right away within 48 hours. And we always say, as a trainer, I always say, if you do nothing else but go back and tell your team about the class you just attended and one of the key things you learned, right? Share it with the person next to you, right? Who sits next to you. And then we talk about shorter term actions and longer term actions. So we understand that you might learn a lot of things, some of which you can apply immediately because other stuff has to happen first. So just kind of let you lay out a little plan of action.
Yeah, exactly. And, from a trainer perspective, it is hard on the heart when you're going around the room saying, who are you? What are you doing here? That learner that starts with, I'm here because my boss said I need to be here. So first of all, when you get that person engaged, when you start seeing the light bulbs over their head, which is, what we want to do, we're not giving up on the human being. When you get that light bulb over because my boss told me so, there is so much internal happiness about that, getting that person engaged, but not all those people are engageable. And when they're not, it's hard on the heart. And especially in this, in this world now of virtual training, just being in a classroom where people aren't contributing, having we always say, don't make me call on you, because I will, because we don't want to. We want everything to be a dialogue and to be engaged. So, and that's perfect segue. And Donna, I should have put or Donna on this slide.
That's okay. And
So-
I put a post out there. If you have questions, go ahead and send them into the chat or the Q&A. I'm not seeing any questions so far, Lisa, but everybody go ahead. If you have questions, go ahead and send them on in.
And so Sharon, did you guys, again, that budget was crazy, right?
Yeah.
We understand that, but did you have an internal marketing person? Did you coordinate with the marketing team? I really don't remember that level of detail.
So we did coordinate with corporate communications for some of the work that we did. You know, if we put up posters or had large banners or things like that, we used corporate communications to make sure that we were within standards and guidelines. They had suggestions for us as well, so that was incredibly helpful. So just from a branding and communications perspective, that was easy for us to do. They helped us set up an intranet site because back in the day they were still fairly new to organizations who did a lot of kind of corporate facing intranet, but for the programs, they didn't naturally do it.
Right.
So it was yet another vehicle for us to get the word out, so to speak. So that was part of it. But I think the thing that I found really interesting is the program really gained steam and got traction was we had folks from the business side of the house. A great example is we had a process engineering group that came in and said, gee, we see all of this work that you're doing and we're a Six Sigma shop. Let us help you figure out your metrics, help you with your charts and graphs. And, eventually the dashboards that were built in a Six Sigma way to make sure that we were really obtaining and marching toward the right goals and taking the right measures and making sure that we had the ability to tweak and change things to, correct where things weren't working. Just having their involvement and the fact that they came to us proactively and said, we're here, let us help. So that kind of, spread those tentacles across the organization and just made us better in the long run.
So
And
I know, oh, go ahead, Donna.
Well, I was going to say, I won't be able to remember the numbers now, but one of the things that also was great about the program, and from my standpoint as an educator, my participating in the program, so as they were seeing progress, we were getting feedback on that progress, and we could then feed it into our classroom. And so an example I remember was that the service desk worked very closely with one of the, I think, development teams on building out knowledge articles and, kind of creating workarounds. And they were really able to show that by collaborating together and to Sharon's point, process integration is the secret sauce, right? By showing that, that integration of incident and problem and incident and knowledge management, they were able to reduce the number of incidents by, I don't remember the number, but it was like a wow kind of number, right? Sure. A significant percentage. And they were able to reduce the time it took them to resolve those incidents. And it was great because we were able to take a real world case study from that organization and feed that back into the classroom and talk about, see, these are some of the benefits that are coming out of, improving these processes and improving the integration between those processes. So it was just this continuous loop of being able to make the education very, very relevant to that organization.
Yeah, exactly. And it helped us too. I think that process integration through line absolutely helped the program. We ended up, that was the basis for our governance program that we put in place over time, so that, incident didn't do anything without, talking to problem or talking to change and what kind of impacts. If I make a change in the tool or to my process, how is that going to help or hurt you? And should we do it? Because, there's always the conversation about, can you do it? Yeah, you can. Should you do it? Is, the larger conversation, and that's where governance comes in. So it was kind of a self-propagating way to operate and allowed us to make sure that we were taking the right steps the right way at the right time.
And so Sharon, I know since, because as we've talked about, and just a little bit funny, I just realized that this was a very long time ago. The internet was the internet was a thing, but no, having an internal portal for your service management. Sure. Service management office wasn't even a term yet, right?
Yep, exactly.
But it's funny because all of the trainers who trained on that program are still training for the academy. And one of the big things that I remember was folks coming home and saying, oh, it's really cool. They have started bringing in the apps team as well. And every class, people fought to teach these classes. I mean, they really did, because your learners were amazing. The program was amazing, the whole thing. But one of the things I specifically remember is, we're allowing time, because the walk a mile in each other's shoes thing, we see it happening.
Yep.
We see friendships and coalitions, and we see things building. So I think for us, the delight for our instructors to be able to train inside of that kind of program, I think is partially, and also you had all the fun marketing.
We did have fun.
You know, I like kitschy stuff, right?
I know, I have my flag. It's somewhere in this office.
That's
I
amazing.
couldn't find it before we started today.
But I think it really was more the joy in the training because of the leadership support. So, you know I've thanked you a lot of times, and thank you again. I'm delighted that you were able to join us today to talk.
It was my pleasure. My pleasure. It's always fun to talk about.
Yeah, it's good memories, and hopeful that
Exactly.
the next, hopefully someone who's joined us today is going to be able to bring some little or some big back and start making some tangible improvements, especially when you've already allocated the training dollars. Do more with what you've done.
Yep, exactly.
The end.
Even if
Any
you
questions?
do nothing but challenge everybody who attends class to, complete their personal action plan, come back and tell other people what they learned, apply at least one thing that they learned, and understand that it doesn't have to cost $30 million. A lot of this was organizational change management and just strong, good, powerful communication, right?
Exactly.
Really, at the end of the day, that's what it was about. Communicate, communicate, communicate.
Mhm.
Yep, exactly.
What does Donna always say? Tell them that you told them, and then tell them again.
Tell them again.
Well, and I always say also, if you think you're communicating enough, double your efforts, right?
Right.
That's a good one.
All right, so ladies, I think we covered the topic so well that we don't have any questions. So
I'll ask a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So let me ask Sharon. So any kind of, like, in hindsight, thoughts about all of this? And it's a little bit of a different question, but this was a kind of fairly traditional program in this day and age of Agile, right?
Right.
Taking an Agile approach, right? Any kind of thoughts that you've had, in the years since?
It's kind of interesting because, at the end of the day, when you're doing process, there's always the conversation about, do we big bang all of the processes together to get the benefit? Do we start with incident and move forward, crawl, walk, run? I think that the technologies today have become more commodity based in terms that they do follow kind of a standardized process and framework. So you can rely on the tools to support the kind of adaptations and adoptions that a number of companies have made. Still, at its core, it works. I still think, looking back, that in a program of that size, I'd make sure that understanding the skills gap that you have and training the people the right way. I think starting with a small core team and building to gain the momentum was the right thing to do, especially in a program of this size. So I don't know that I'd change a lot. I think the communications and the fun were such a big piece. I've run a number of ITSM programs since then and have used the work that I did with this FinServe company kind of as a blueprint to get it done. I think that the Agile piece of it comes once we've done all of the enablement around the technology, and then we're looking to move and mature. At that point, Agile comes in where it can be really fast, and where MVP around enhancements and expanding the platforms that we're using is really where some of the new stuff comes in. I mean, we were poking at DevOps when we brought the application team in, right? We just didn't know that we were doing it back in the day, because they were in an Agile world at that point, just starting. But, again, the
Yeah.
conversations that we have around, well, gee, with the rapidity of the kind of deployments and things that you're putting in, how does that impact change, and starting to have those conversations. And now they have to go hand in hand. It's part and parcel. And, I think companies are still poking at it a little to some extent to figure out
Yeah.
how it all works together and maintain the controls that you need.
Well, because integration is the secret sauce.
It is. Indeed,
I
it
love
is.
that.
Love it.
I'm going to give you credit for it, lady, but I'm going to be using that sentence. Let me just tell
Hey,
you
that's
that.
great. Process integrate. I'm a process chick, and that's where it all starts.
Exactly. All right. Well, Sharon, do you have any questions?
I don't. It was just a great time. Had a lot of fun talking about, a program that I felt was really successful, and as I mentioned, was a real blueprint. So, I continue to look to ITSM Academy. I sit and take webinars from you guys all the time, so I always keep track of what you're doing, and learned about XLAs from you and things like that too. So, it's a relationship that I've enjoyed having over the years, and will continue to do so.
Awesome. Thank you, lady.
Agreed.
All right. Well, I'm giving everyone 2 minutes back. Look
We'll
at me.
take it.
I'm a giver.
Yeah, we like
Thanks.
that.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Thanks
Thanks,
so
everybody.
much. Take
Thanks,
care.
Sharon.
You
As
bet.
always.
You bet. Bye-bye.